You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done.
You done, Jeffrey? All right. Jeffrey's fidgeting around. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen.
And the people or person that we have today is Dr. Corinna Freitag. She is an executive coach. Wait, I have to put my glasses on. There you are. Advisor and speaker with over 30 years of expertise in natural and human sciences through university, industry, and continuing education. Doc, you don't even look over 30. She holds a PhD in chemistry. She's certified as an executive coach and received her associate certified coach credential through the International Coaching Federation, the gold standard of professional coaching. She's lived in different countries and worked for over 18 years globally in the automotive and chemical industry in various positions with colleagues on the shop floor up to senior VPs, which led her to being the Global Operations Excellence Leader for over 5 years. And then you went and ruined it all and became a coach. So we want to hear that whole backstory. All right, Jeffrey, ask your question. Welcome.
Well, first of all, Corinna's up late. We're up early. Corinna's operating out of Germany
it's 6
today.
p.m. there, Jeffrey. It's like dinner time. She may get a little,
Well,
hungry
I'm
while we're
old, so
talking.
6 p.m. is like bedtime, I guess. Eat dinner at noon, things like that. Anyway, Corinna. So, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you want to be when you were little?
Yeah, so I guess my answer will now be a bit disappointing because I have to say I cannot remember.
Well, that's honest. That's honest.
That there was nothing big. I mean, I think there was something that I saw, but it was not so big, kind of like this, this master plan, like some people have, that I can remember it.
Right.
Like what I can remember is that as a child, I was like curious and playful. And when I look at photos from me, when I was like a child, there's a motifs that I see again and again. It's kind of like where I'm squatting on the floor and I observe something. Mm-hmm. So what I remember is that in the garden of my home, there was a spider net and I could sit in front of it and observe the spider for hours. So I did not have a great plan at that time, what I wanted to become. But I was at that time already very interested in science, and to get answers to how the world works.
Now, were your parents scientists? Were they educators? No?
No, not at all.
Okay. So so you forged your own path, which is
yes.
So how did you get from the PhD to coaching?
Yeah, and did you go to, were you in the university system within Germany, or did you go to another country?
Yeah, so regarding my PhD, so all of this I did in Germany, but then afterwards I went for 1 year to Toronto to do their postdoc, because at that time my English was so terrible that I thought I cannot go to the industry with this bad English, so somehow I need to improve it. And then afterwards, I went to the industry and I was very happy or glad that I had improved my English, because from the start, I worked very internationally, so I really needed my English.
Excellent. And then, so now, did you work as a chemist? Did you work in a lab? Were you in a university doing research?
So during my time at the university, there was doing a lot of research and experiments, and especially also with the thesis. So I had to do a lot of experiments. But then starting from being at the industry, I did not work myself in the lab anymore. I mean, actually, the first position was kind of it's called process development. And so I worked together with people who worked in the lab. and also like in manufacturing. But myself, I did not work in the lab anymore.
And so how did you, I mean, it's such a big leap from that to coaching. How did that happen?
Well, and I'm guessing by what you just said that what happens is you were in kind of management process, got into management. And
shouldn't we actually interview her?
I was guessing.
This is called an interview where we ask the questions and they answer.
So yeah, the way that
guess is right.
So the way that happened actually was from 2015 to 2018, I worked and lived in Asia. And at the time I came back to Germany, I started to realize that something is missing. I was not so passionate about my work anymore. So I started to play around and to look for what else I can do. And I experimented. And also at that time, I started to work with a coach. And she asked me a question or gave me like a task, which helped me to overcome like a limiting belief I had like for over 40 years. So she asked me to ask other people about my strengths. And the most thing that came up was that I'm good with people. And for over 40 years, I thought I'm not good with people. So I got this result. It was kind of like, what? And so then it took me some time to digest this and to understand this. And at one point I was kind of like, oh, I really would like to become a coach myself. And then in 2022, I started like my training to become an executive coach. And in 2023, I left the corporate world to go all in my own business.
Good for you. And how is that going for you?
I really like it. I mean, it's really fun and have the freedom of what I want to do. And I meet a lot of new and interesting people. And I mean, I'm definitely not there where I want to be, that I can support myself financially. But so far, I like it. And I would say I make right steps in the right direction. So I see progress.
And do you focus in a certain area, like because of your analytical background, your research background, that makes you really powerful coach in those areas? Is that where you're finding, is that where work is coming from, or is it just general business? And would I say Frau Doktor? Is that how you say it, Frau Doktor, or Fräulein Doktor?
No, it would be actually Frau Doktor in German. So what I do is that I help STEM professionals to overcome workplace challenges so that they look forward to Mondays again.
So what do you see is more common with people in the STEM arena as opposed to people in marketing or, something that's, much different than technology and science?
Yeah, so I think in STEM, it's more common that you have more people that are a bit like maybe nerdy, that are a bit maybe with social interactions like awkward, or that they're not so good with this. Yeah, I would say that they are very rational, that they love facts and data, and that they like to neglect emotions. And I mean, I think so first of all, not all STEM people are that, but I think it's more in the STEM area or higher percentage. And I think I'm allowed to say this because I'm myself kind of like coming from that, and I'm myself a bit nerdy, and I did a lot to get better in like social interactions and also to understand that also emotions are important and not only facts and data. It's kind of like with a hammer. So it's a great tool, like if you want to put a nail in the wall, but you cannot use it if you want to paint a canvas. So
good point.
And your English, by the way, is very, very good. What's nerdy in German? Is there a word equivalent for nerdy?
That's a good question. I have to admit, I need to look it up. I think I speak too much English that like for some words, it really happens that I forgot the German words.
Okay.
And there's a lot of, did you know that not all languages have a word for fun?
Oh, really? No, I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeffrey,
That's
we actually
interesting.
met, and for those of you listening, Corinna and I met through Alexandra Suchman from Barometer XP, who we had earlier as a guest, and so that's why I brought it up, because you started to get more knowledgeable in the play arena. Why did you go that route?
So I mean, as I mentioned, as a child, I was like very playful. And then over the years, somehow I lost it.
As
And,
most adults do. Yeah.
but then I discovered it kind of like back. And the interesting I think I learned about play is that, like, for example, puppies, they do it. Even that it means that it puts them in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this, they can like lose their life,
Mm-hmm.
which means there needs to be like a very important thing about like play, that they do it. And so therefore I kind of like thought maybe, I mean, it's not only fun, but
Right.
so I should look into it again. And so therefore I use like one tool with my clients, which is like a very playful approach to help them to overcome their workplace challenges.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it lightens things up and allows them to be in the moment. So I think that's a great way to go with them. So
Excuse me.
what conflicts do you find that happen with them that you need, that are obviously unique to them? Did I ask that question already?
No.
No. I would not say that these conflicts are unique to STEM professionals. I guess that all kind of like people have them. And I find kind of like two conflicts. The one is that they have like a conflict like with one person. And then they think kind of like, oh, if I leave my job, then I'm happy and I don't have this conflict anymore. But the problem is it's kind of like a recurring pattern. So it's like this kind of person they have this conflict with. So if that means if they leave their job, and I mean, in the next position, there's not such a person, then everything is fine. But if there's again kind of like this person, then they have like the same conflict again. Right. This is like the one thing. And the other thing is kind of like that they have like conflicts with all kind of like different people all the time.
Right. So do you work more with one-on-one, or do you do groups, workshops? What do you find is most needed?
I mean, so far I work most like one-on-one. And maybe that's it, because so far I attract more people like working one-on-one. What is most needed? That's a good question. I mean, I would say like also group coaching would work as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I also would like to do this more. It's just kind of like the way it developed so far.
Right. Well, you haven't been doing it for all that long. And I know, I mean, I'm still trying to build up a following, and I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. And Jeffrey's been doing it for what, 150 or something, Jeffrey?
Exactly. Exactly. I think I'm approaching 200, rounding out at 200. Right. So, Corinna, do you find there's a common element that they've skipped over, or a common skill they don't have? Like, for example, does conflict come because they believe in their technical point and they're arguing their technical point, and the people, they just can't see another perspective? Or is it a general kind of lack of emotional intelligence? They're not understanding the impact of what they're doing. I'm sure it could be a combination of the both. So
I would say it's kind of like a combination of different things. And then also, I mean, I don't want to say it's like the same for all STEM people. It's also kind of like, for some people, it's maybe more kind of like A, for some more kind of like B, and for others kind of like a mix of A, B, and maybe even C. So, yeah.
And would you say it's more on their attitude? Like, for example, there are times when you pick a battle and you get into a battle with somebody and you justify that battle. And then there are other times where you're just a poor communicator. So you're not aware that you're muddying the waters. Is there a pattern?
I would say different clients have different patterns. So I have clients and they're just like, not really good in bringing their point across and like to communicate professional, because they sometimes react like so emotional. But then there are also like other clients and they really love those facts and data, and they don't like emotions at all.
Yeah.
So then they kind of like think like, oh, if I just like bring those facts and data, then the other person should understand it. And then maybe there are also like other things. Like, for example, I had one client and was like very defensive and wanted to control everything and had like high standards, plus like this loving facts and data and don't see the point of emotions. And like this mix, it was like, ooh, it made it really challenging to interact with other people.
Yeah.
So, and I think I can ask this question because my dad was Swiss German, very, very definitive. And he had control issues. I have control issues. And I was just talking to my younger son the other day. And I was saying, you made a choice. And he's going, you're just criticizing me. I said, no, I'm giving you information for the future so you can make a better choice next time. It's not that you made a bad decision. So do you think it's cultural? Do you think part of it has to do with that Germanic kind of nature?
I mean, I think that culture definitely influences it. But actually, this client was from Mexico. Okay. So it was not a German client. And I think like this wanting to control everything, it's in general, like I would say in the Western world, at least, it's like a high percentage of people who have that.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, I could share like a story like from the corporate world, like if it's regarding culture, if you like. Okay, so because I found it really very interesting as I started in 2004 to working for this company. I worked a lot together with people from South Africa, and I was like very German. So everything needs to be like very exact. And then I followed up and I controlled it and so on. And when something was wrong or not 100% perfect, I asked them to do it better. And I mean, they were like really very friendly and they did it. And then like 2 or 3 years later, I started to work like with the Japanese. So They were very correct. And when I did not do something like 120%, then they followed up. And then I was kind of like, oh my God, now I know how the people from South Africa felt during the time they worked together with me. This was really a great experience because I learned like both perspectives.
And actually, this all makes, I think all of it can be a super learning experience for you as a coach, really being aware of cultural differences. So do you do research on different cultures? Because I mean, I'm a New York girl and we're really straightforward, and yet we can be really wacky, and we're not exact. And yes, there are definite personality differences. I come from, a play background, more improv, more off the cuff, and Jeffrey is very systems oriented and it has to be done this way. And trust me, we have butt heads more than once on things. So what do you do? And how have you overcome those, or at least prepped to overcome that?
So, I mean, really the time in the corporate world helped me, like working together with like so many different cultures, and also my time in Asia. I mean, during that time I lived in China, but I also worked together with people like from India, Thailand, Korea, Japan. And so it's like really very, a lot of different cultures, and they're so different. So I think this really helped me to see all these different perspectives, and also kind of like to understand that, there are also other perspectives. And it does not mean that like my perspective is like the best one. And I mean, also like what I tried with this, like to take the best out of all these different cultures and try to use them for me.
Very good. That makes a lot of sense. You You're just like a sponge absorbing things. Very good. So what would you say is your favorite thing about doing what you do?
It's really that I can do what I love to do. So, for example, I love to dive deep into topics such as behavioral science, but that also I can work together and also like meet so many different and interesting people. And then seeing how my clients like improve in their work and life. This is so rewarding and so much fun to see.
Nice. How do you get clients? What's your process?
It's mix of like that I increase my visibility with, for example, being on podcasts, but also giving presentations. And also I'm active on LinkedIn that I post regularly. And I also have like a newsletter and like with networking, like one-on-one or like with groups of people.
Pretty much like we do.
Yeah. So if somebody's coming in, somebody wanted to be a coach, what do you recommend? I mean, because for you, had a PhD, you've already been through, undergrad, grad, and postgrad. And so you know how to study something and approach a subject. And so then you get into coaching later on and you're having to, dig into the subject. So, what would you recommend to somebody who wants to get into the coaching business?
I mean, I think it's definitely a good idea really to get like a coaching certification and like before like going to like training to learn like skills of coaching and then also like to practice. And I mean, also with this, then you can figure out if you really like doing it or if maybe not. Yeah. So, but I really would recommend to do like this first step.
Very, very good. And is there a model, getting back to systems, is there a model you follow, kind of a general model that you, in terms of coaching, process that you do, place to start, place to kind of work with them and then making recommendations?
I use a mix of different tools. So, I mean, I use like what I learned like from like the ACC certifications through the ICF, like asking open-ended questions and like being the mirror and like reflect. But what I also like to do is to give advice based on like my vast experience. I mean, I spent like 10 years at university and like worked over 18 years in the corporate world. Then I also like use a tool where people, what I call, train their mental toughness, which means that they can, if there's like a challenge, that they can handle this challenge like with a positive rather than a negative mindset. And I don't mean with this kind of like that now everything is like rose colored and the sun is shining. No, like, so challenges are part of our life, but if you can handle them better and really meet them with like a positive mindset, this makes a big difference. And I also, love still to use facts and data. So, and with this, I kind of like use tools out of the corporate world that I adjusted to personal development. So, for example, using KPIs with my clients so that at the beginning we set like a target, and it can be something like very tangible, like, for example, do not interrupt people so often or to speak often.
I was just thinking about that. And well, I'm right there with you. I've interrupted her a couple times.
So are they like SMART goals? Are you familiar with SMART goals?
Yes. Yeah. I try to make them together as smart as possible. Yeah, absolutely.
Smart
and then KPIs. I also like, yes, yeah. And then also over the coaching engagement, we track them.
Right. I always forget, was SMART Goals Drucker or Deming? It was the SMART Goals came from it starts with a D.
Peter Drucker.
It's either Drucker or Deming. So anyway, maybe. I can't remember.
Anyway. He likes to drop names.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
He's read, if you look at the back, he has a few books that he's done, all color coded.
Yes, and I spent
And
30
my
years
dog
at
is-
university, but that's just because it took me a long time to get my bachelor's. No, only kidding.
So,
Very, very good.
If people want to get not if, sorry, my dog is barking. I don't know if they can. So if people want to ask you questions and possibly work with you, how do they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
I think the best is really to check out my website, which is like my name, CorinnaFreitag.com. So which is like CorinnaFreitag. And there they can find like my email address, a link to my LinkedIn profile. They can subscribe to my newsletter. I have there like a calendar link so that they can book time with me, or they can shoot me like a note via a contact form.
It's like one-stop shopping.
Exactly. And just going back for one question, going back to the play issue, because that's why I sought out Rona, because of the play factor. Because anytime you're doing OD work, organizational development work, it's people hit walls. They hit walls where the change is really, really hard. And, play is one of those things that can help them break through. And so have you had good success with play and incorporating it? And did you dip your toe into it, or are you using it extensively?
So actually, this is the tool, what I call like that I help people to improve their mental toughness. Because like one part of it is like that we have like all these nasty voices in our head that tell us like all these bad things. And the tool I use calls them like saboteurs. And they're like 10 different saboteurs. And for example, there's like a controller saboteur. We discussed this already. But there's then also, for example, like the avoider saboteur, who, as the name says, like wants to avoid like unpleasant situations, or like a restless saboteur who wants to be like all the time busy and is looking for the next big, exciting adventure. And so using this, it's far easier like to catch this voice in your head, that is telling you all these nasty things. And also there's actually an antagonist, which is like the sage. So this is like the positive, or the part of your brain that serves you. And so it has like a special perspective, and also it has like superpowers. And so with this, I make progress like more playful. And for them, it's really far easier. Or also like, for example, when I see something that they do something which is, they should change, then I can point out to their saboteurs. So I can say like, hey, is there maybe kind of like your hyper-rational saboteur who thinks like facts and data are most important? And it's, easier to point out like the saboteurs, and then like to say like, hey, you make this wrong.
Well, there you go. I will have to pay more attention to all the voices in my head telling me to do things. Well, which one are you? So anyway, this has been absolutely wonderful, and it's so great to have someone international to see, because Americans are so different than Europeans, to see your viewpoint and how much you have absorbed from being in the Americas, even though Canada's still the Americas. And so this was great, and I hope people contact you from us. Jeffrey, any last questions?
No. You should get. Hopefully, it'll work out well. We have 3 top markets. We have Australia, United States, and Germany. Our top podcast audience. Right. So we're good. You should be golden. Right. You'll be busier than you want to be.
We want 5% of all your business. And
Corinna, this has been great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That's it for us. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.